I've been visiting for a few days with my dear friend Eric Schellenberg here in Highland, New York. This is Black Creek Farm and Nursery, and we're standing in front of one of the many nursery beds. This is a really complex and amazing and productive farm. And I was wondering, Eric, would you share with folks what it is that you're up to here? Like, how long have you been here? What are the things that are happening?
Yeah, we got the property about 6.5 years ago, and at that time I had probably 6-ish years of experience kind of market gardening on leased land in Canada and then in Vermont, and we moved down here to the Hudson Valley and got this piece of land, and it's about 40 acres, and it's kind of a split operation. There's a vegetable farm that does kind of standard-ish organic vegetables, although we've been trying to change that to be a little bit more truly sustainable and in line with my belief systems than what I felt like regular organic was. And then the other half has been increasingly growing nursery crops, and like this particular field used to just be peas. We would do peas in the spring here, and then we would transition it over to something else. And I love peas, everybody loves peas, but it's sort of, I mean, with annual crops, you get the food that you need now, and people can really eat. And that was the mission, right? We donated a lot of, for a while there, we were donating about 10 to 20,000 pounds a year. Wow. In addition to our 2 farmers markets that were sort of our bread and butter. We still do the farmers markets, we still do the donation, although this year was not so high yielding, so our donation is probably going to be more in the 5,000 pound range, which is not that much for us, but we're doing what we can. And so the farm fields are lower down, and they're a type of soil called black dirt or muck, and so that's a very unique type of thing. And then the upper part of the landscape here is a little bit rockier, not really great for vegetables, but it's wonderful for perennials. And that's, for a long time, that's been my mission of trying to help in whatever way perennialize agriculture in our area to whatever extent we can. There's a lot of challenges towards achieving that on like a commercial scale, so I've always been thinking, okay, well, maybe we really do just need a whole lot more hands, more people involved growing food in community gardens, on other people's land, on their own land, converting lawns, converting communal spaces. And so the plant nursery is about facilitating that. And we do a lot of donations and trades with the plant material. We work with a lot of local organizations to try to get that plant material out whenever it makes sense, to help, you know, push a communal space or someone else's property towards perennial edible crops. Most of the vegetable farm is based on these low fields. If you can pan out, you can see it's really flat. This deposition was laid down by about 9,000 years of plants in an anaerobic context, in a wetland context, dying. And so the parent material of this soil is just woody organic debris. And you can see that it's very substantially different from most soils. It's just jet black. The organic percentage is about 60 to 70% on these soils. And about 100 years ago, the town highway department and the farmer blasted a rock out over which all of this drains, so they lowered it to drain it for agriculture. And over the past couple of years, growing on this organic is really hard because the weed pressure is super intense, as you can see. And we have, over the past couple of years, now 100% transitioned to zero plastic farming, which has been and continues to be an unbelievable learning curve and struggle for us because the weed pressure is so intense, and cultivating doesn't always work out so well down here because, like, in this year we had floods and we couldn't get down here for 7 weeks, and this is what happens to weeds when you can't get down. But there's still a lot of produce. I mean, we harvest thousands of pounds of carrots, and we've picked most of this field, although we have to come through and glean the rest out. But the productivity is very high. The work when you go plastic free is really intense, and yet we really believe in that because there are chemical concerns of phthalates getting into the food and all kinds of other stuff, and the environmental toll of the plastic. And so that's been the main thrust of the farm, is trying to switch towards something that we really feel is in line with our values. At this point, we're just harvesting the rest for storage. We take the tops off, keep them in a bin. I think total yield from this field, where we had 4 rows, 600 feet of carrots, is probably going to be over 10,000 pounds.
Wow.
So it produces a lot, but it takes us a lot longer to pick through these weeds, but we don't get any more money for that.
Right. But you don't spend money on plastic, and you don't have more chemicals going into the soils and specifically the food.
Right, and that's the value to us. Economically, it makes complete sense to do it with plastic either way. The expense of plastic is tiny compared to the loss of economic yield that we have by the increased labor, but that doesn't matter because it really doesn't seem like it's a safe food in the long run. I think a couple years from now, we're going to realize that a lot of organic food isn't as chemical free and safe as we thought it was, and so we just don't want to be a part of that anymore.
So seeing blemished produce coming from weedy fields may actually be a safer and healthier thing to think about.
I think so. That's what makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And of course, all of that isn't enough, because you can still destroy soil with organic tillage. Just tillage alone, you can do enough damage. So we haven't figured out how to go no-till, but we've been trying to reduce the tillage, and the efforts are gonna, it's gonna be a lifelong process how to figure out better annual vegetable systems here that respect the soil, respect the wildlife, and give us a good, healthy product.
We're walking along the side of the road here, and I'm seeing a whole bunch of different types of plants in a pattern. What's happening in here?
So this was one of the first plantings that I did when I got here. I had actually been growing these trees for 2 years before we found the property. I actually didn't know that we were looking for property at the time when I started growing these trees. I just got seeds and started growing them. I was super excited. They were in pots. I was really just learning what I was doing. And then the whole property came available and the thing happened, and I had the trees, so it was great. The timing worked out. They weren't super root bound. So
what are these trees?
We've got persimmons and pawpaws on the other end. Some of these are a little bit grafted. Most of them are all seedling.
A little bit grafted.
Right, you can see this one's it's a little bit grafted.
Just a little grafted.
On one side, we've got American persimmon, which is just a beautiful, crazy fruitful, delicious tree. And none of these trees have ever gotten anything at all. I mean, mulching and mowing is the only thing that I've ever done.
But no spray, no fertilizer,
no fertilizer,
no irrigation,
not even in organic sprays, nothing like that. And that's why we grow these trees, is because if we were going to grow apples or something like that here, you'd have to be like doing all kinds of interventions just to keep them alive. So when I planted this field, it was the 3 rows of trees, and then you can see asparagus. And so for the first 2 years, it was really pretty glorious. With the tree rows also were a mulched row that had strawberries growing in them, which we picked and sold at the farm. And then we had these asparagus rows, and then in between, this was a bed of annuals. So we had our first garlic in here and lettuce and all kinds of stuff, and we had these as annual beds for about 2 years, which we could theoretically bring back. It's still open. It's just that I've less and less inclined to do a lot of soil disturbance in the middle here now that I feel the roots from the trees are probably getting in. So I more just mow this. We do still pick the asparagus. That grows really well. But so this field was an attempt to bring together the perennials and the annuals in a really management intensive system that we knew would evolve over time to something about like this. At one point I thought we would mow it with sheep instead of scythes, and I have a BCS with a mower on it. I wanted to eventually do that with sheep, but that's a little bit too much for right now.
Eric, it was lovely to visit with you as always. This has been a tradition that we've had. He'll come and visit with Sasha and I for a day or two here or there, and we work on projects, and I'll come out here and work on some things, and I come with a car full of things to bring and go back with a car even fuller with things that he's grown, and it's wonderful. So thank you for that, and thanks for sharing time with everyone today. I just want to make sure people know, so you have a nursery where you offer up a crazy wide variety of trees, and that is bcfnursery.com, right?
Yep.
And you still have plants available this fall if people are interested?
Yeah, thanks to our trip last year around here, we collected tons of chestnuts, and so a lot of those trees got grown out here, and there's still quite a few left that need to find homes for sure. That's
wonderful. And you have a YouTube channel where you are talking in much greater detail about all these amazing projects you're up to. So folks, check out the website and support our friend Eric and his lovely wife Jody and all the beautiful people that work here, and the growth of tens of thousands of pounds of delicious organic phthalate-free food and beautifully organically grown nursery stock at Black Creek Farm and Nursery. Thanks so much, Eric.
Thanks for coming. Around and actually worked out really well. Like crops that yeah, I do want, we have sweet potatoes, so I want to try to do some sweet potatoes for this.
Like toasting them up on the stove.